Good evening, everyone. I'll just start by giving you very quickly my background. I've been involved in what's called the stem cell banking industry for almost 11 years now, and I previously worked for two of the largest stem cell banks in Europe, mainly doing international business development. And it was through all that experience that I have come across some of the industry's biggest problems. And in 2012, me and my co-founder Lopes, who was previously area manager for Merck Pharmaceuticals in Portugal for more than 25 years, decided to join forces and resolve these big problems in the stem cell industry. And today we are very fortunate to say that we have done an extraordinary journey, and I'm very grateful and happy to be sharing this, what we have built with you and what we are going to do in the future. So WideCells Group today, fast forwarding, we are a revenue generative company. Again, we are listed on the main market. And we are a worldwide provider of stem cell services. Now, I've often heard the stem cell industry being labeled as a niche industry, but the industry is worth $100 billion today, and is expected to double in the next 3 to 4 years. So it should be the only 100 billion niche industry in the world. So it's growing quite fast. There's amazing opportunities, big problems to be solved, and that we can capitalize on. So we are delivering what we call the world's first stem cell end-to-end services solution. For that, we have established 3 business divisions. One of them is CellPlan, and CellPlan is the world's first stem cell insurance plan to cover all the costs associated with stem cell treatments. And we have also developed the world's first second medical opinion service for stem cell services. WideCells is where we have the ability to process and store stem cells at our new facility in the University of Manchester Innovation Centre, where we can process stem cells from a baby's umbilical cord, blood and tissue, from dental pulp from baby teeth, and from adipose tissue as well, which I'm going to explain in detail later on. Wide Academy is responsible for education and training, mainly medical professionals on stem cell technology, so they can refer services and stem cell treatments to their patients. But also it's important to educate potential clients, expecting parents, but also the investor community. And I'm going to explain again later on in detail each of these divisions. We have recently been nominated the 21st most disruptive company in the world by Disrupt 100. We have little institutions behind this panel, such as Microsoft Ventures, Google Ventures, Ubers, and others. So it's we're very fortunate to have this type of recognition. And we've also been nominated for IPO Life Sciences of the Year by Biotech and Money. We came out 5th. This was 2 weeks ago, which again was a distinction for us. In terms of our boards, we have the founder of Denplan, which is the market leader in dental insurance in the UK, Melanie Norcherton, who joined us just before we floated the company last year. We have, which is here with us, Alan, who was a former director of Apple Education, who is spearheading the Wide Academy division. And we have one of the top stem cell specialists in the world as our chief scientific officer, shareholder, and he's full-time as well. Now, just corporate snapshot. We've floated on the 27th of July last year, 11p. We went up 25-30% since then. And we've mainly been doing product development. We were obtaining our licenses and setting up our new laboratory facility at the University of Manchester. Well, we've done 90% of that now, exactly as we promised when we floated. And this is an inflection point for our company because we started to generate revenues last month. And we launched 3 products in 45 days, and there's more to come. So this is the moment that I've been working for in the past 5 years. Developing the company, getting a fundraise, a team together, and now going to market. Now, stem cells, I mentioned 100 billion markets, but I would focus now on what's called the stem cell banking industry. So today we have around 4 million people globally that have paid around £2,000 to freeze their baby's umbilical cord blood stem cells to protect their families against future illnesses. And cord blood stem cells are a routine treatment today, first medical option for treatments such as leukemia, myeloma, lymphoma, and other forms of blood cancers and tumors. And they have paid around £2,000, and we have these 4 million people storing their stem cells in around 500 cord blood banks globally. 200 of those cord blood banks are high quality, which means we are able to work with them. Now, there's been an increase in terms of diseases that can be treated using umbilical cord blood stem cells, 300% over the past 13, 14 years. This is, again, is mainly blood diseases and disorders, life-threatening diseases. And now we are entering into regenerative medicine, which means stem cells are starting to be used, and we have clinical trials stage 2 and 3 for things such as regenerating pancreatic cells for patients with diabetes type 2, autism, cerebral palsy, amongst other diseases, multiple sclerosis, for example, regeneration of the heart muscle following a stroke. So there's immense potential here. Now, research. This is one of the elements that we are involved as well, although we are not a research company. So when, from an investor standpoint, you're looking into WideCells, we are a services provider, and we are transversal to the industry. I'm going to explain each division in more detail. Now, stem cells can be collected from bone marrow. You might have heard about a bone marrow transplant. A bone marrow transplant is a stem cell transplant of what's called hematopoietic stem cells. We find the same type of stem cells in the baby's umbilical cord blood. Now, what's the big difference between the two? For a successful bone marrow transplant, we need a perfect match, 100% match between donor and recipient. Whilst with the baby's umbilical cord blood stem cells, we only need around 25 to 50% match, which means the family doesn't need to count on finding a matching donor. And we know that most patients end up dying because they cannot find one. So if the family can pay £2,000 when the baby is born and freeze their baby's umbilical cord blood stem cells, they have a powerful resource that can be used in the future to treat family members in the nuclear family circle, which means siblings and parents. So this is a very important resource, and families should at least know the option, because there are families that can afford, that could have their stem cells frozen, and if they need it in the future, they didn't need to count on finding a donor. They would already have the solution for them. Now, what's the strategy? So the 3 divisions, they operate independently, but they are synergistic in the sense that they help each other. With Wide Academy, we train medical professionals so they understand stem cell technology. For example, an obstetrician, if he understands what stem cells can be used for, in which treatment centers, by which medical teams, how much it costs, and how is the process, he can much easier recommend stem cell storage services to expecting parents. And then they would decide to store stem cells. So this is one part of it. And if we can increase the uptake by informing mainly medical professionals, but there's other areas that we are looking into, we can drive the uptake for stem cell storage services with our WideCells division, because with our facility in Manchester, we have the ability to store stem cells in the UK, anywhere in Europe, and in the Middle East as well, because we will ship the samples from these countries here to the UK. Now, we are also involved in research. We have set up our facility in record time for 1/5 of the costs, and I would say we have most likely the best stem cell bank in Europe set up in the University of Manchester now, and I'll welcome anyone to visit the facility at any time. So with the facility we have applied for a license from the Human Tissue Authority to be able to conduct research, which is starting to generate revenues for us as well. Basically, we have companies that, a part of their research, they are looking for a facility and technical expertise. Because we have that in-house, they are able to hire us for a part of the process, which is called contract research, and we generate revenue from it. Now, CellPlan is what it actually makes everything happen. Because again, we have 4 million people in the world, pay £2,000 to store their baby stem cells, but they are mostly unaware that a stem cell treatment can cost up to £300,000, which means the majority of families will not be able to afford it. So I pay to have the resource, but now I cannot afford it. And national healthcare services, even in the UK, if there's a relapse, they will not cover. Or they might go for bone marrow as an option because it costs less than cord blood, depends on the trust. Now let's forget about the UK and focus on the world, because this product is meant for the world, and private health insurance does not cover for these type of treatments. And we have developed the world's first insurance plan to cover for these costs. Now, it's much more than an insurance policy. It's a full service proposition. So we have 4 services included in one single product. We have your expert consultation, where we have the ability to review a patient's case regardless of where he is in the world. And then with your medical certainty, we can provide the right diagnosis and treatment plan. With your global resource, we'll provide him with a selection of treatment centers where he can access treatment. And we have a medical concierge to arrange for the whole process. Now, an example. Let's imagine you have a family in India store their baby's umbilical cord blood, and the treatment is only available in the MD Anderson in the US. How do we get that patient next week in the US to receive treatment? We take care of the whole process, even visa arrangements, to get that patient as soon as possible. We arrange for the transportation of the sample, collection of medical records. We take care of all the bureaucracy so that the patient only focuses on getting well. And then we have the policy itself, where we provide cover of up to 1 million euros in Europe, $1 million outside Europe, and £1 million in the UK. The policy is 100% underwritten by a major reinsurer from Switzerland, and we have global reinsurance capacity, which means that in pretty much 3-4 months' time, we can launch the products in any country in the world, because we've developed our own e-commerce platform, and very easily we can adjust terms and conditions, translate everything, and launch in the next market, which means we can scale up quickly. Now, market demand. 4 million people have already frozen. It's growing really fast, to 250,000 new collections a year. Countries like Singapore have 25% adoption rates already. 1/4 of families are already storing their baby's umbilical cord blood. Portugal, Spain, Italy is around 10-12%. In the UK is below 1%. So there's a lot of work and potential here. Now, again, treatments can cost up to £300,000, with the exception of the US, where a treatment for leukemia at the Mayo Clinic might cost $800,000. With our policy, we provide full cover for it. And then I include here an information because the South American market is growing really, really fast. And there's a lot of funding also going into research, even by local governments, which conflicts. They have needs in other areas in healthcare, but they are investing in the next generation of stem cell technology because they see the future is there and the government can save money in the future. Now, with CellPlan, there's a beauty in our business model because we don't need to go around and find the clients. We know exactly where they are. They have stored the stem cells in cord blood banks. There are 200 out of the 500 globally that meet our quality standards, which means we have developed a quality program to ensure the stem cells have been stored in appropriate conditions so they can be used for transplant in the future. Now, we have started to enter agreements with the cord blood banks, and basically what they do is refer the product to their existing database, but even better, for all the new clients that, for example, with BioVault, they are storing stem cells with them in the UK, at this moment, BioVault is paying for the first year policy for them, and we just need to retain the client in the future. So that gives us a steady income. So every time we sign up a new cord blood bank, for example, in Brazil and others that are on the pipeline, we have new clients, 100% take up, and then from existing clients, we expect that in the next 2 to 3 years to have around 100,000 clients with our insurance policy. Now, we've developed a new route since the IPO for anyone that has been following the story for more than a year. We've developed our e-commerce platform, which allows us to sell the product directly. So before, let's assume we sign an agreement with a cord blood bank in Spain and I'm going to that market next month. I will have to sign up all the other cord blood banks in the next 12, 18, or 24 months, develop all the marketing strategy before we could hit the market. With our e-commerce platform, we sign up the first cord blood bank, we go to the market, but all the families in Spain that have stored the stem cells in cord blood banks that meet our criteria can already purchase the product in the platform because we can generate the quotes, conduct the health questionnaire, collect payments, and issue the insurance policy digitally. And this has been launched in the UK already. So revenue model. Now, let's look at the calculation. So we have the CellPlan price priced at £170. It goes up to £300 in a gold policy, including 5-star hotel accommodation, business class, air travel, and so on. But with the average that we generate to WideCells after paying the risk premium, the provider of the platform, after paying the commission to the corporate bank, to paying everyone, we generate £50. Plus all yearly renewals, which means it's a recurrent revenue model. Now, historically, families that stored stem cells and are paying every year in an annual storage model, are paying every year £150 to keep their baby stem cells frozen, the retention rate is 95%. There's almost no product in the world that you have clients for more than 15 years with 95% retention rates, which means when a family decides to store the stem cells, they keep the stem cell, they keep renewing every year. And we're estimating the same thing to happen if they stored the stem cells to use them in the future, and now they take insurance. If they want them to use them in the future, they will need the insurance. So we think it's a very sticky product. So we are targeting 10,000 clients in the first year, and that started counting last month. 30,000 clients on year 2 and 60,000 on year 3. That's accumulated 100,000. Now let's run some calculation. Client lifetime value. If on year 3 we have 100,000 clients paying £50 for 20 years, if we do a net present value, even calculating a discount of 50%, just this segment can be valued at 50 million. Just this business alone without anything else. Just this product exactly as it is, no further developments. And there's much room for development as well in the future. Now, following Brexit and the IPO, we had to decide where to establish the office because passport rights of selling insurance into Europe might change. So we decided to set up the office in Portugal, where I'm based, and we've been running the operation from there. It was actually a very good decision because we ran the operation at 1/4 of the cost in comparison to running it from London. Now, WideCells, very quickly. We have established our facility. It's the best out there. Really invite anyone to go there and visit. We have a franchisee agreement in Brazil, in São Paulo already, where we have out-licensed our brand and our technology for which we get paid the royalty in return. So again, we are moving on to other markets quite rapidly. Now we have multiple revenue streams in WideCells. We have baby cells, which is storing a baby's umbilical cord, blood, and tissue. We started sales in Brazil already. At any moment when we receive the license from the Human Tissue Authority here in the UK, which is imminent, can happen at any moment now, we'll start offering these products, which will start generating revenues. Next year, we'll launch teeth cells, which is basically when the baby teeth falls out, the dental pulp contained on baby teeth contains stem cells that can be used in regenerative medicine. So instead of sending the tooth to the tooth fairy, parents will in the future be able to send it to our lab, freeze it, and protect the family in the future. Now, and bear in mind, dentists, it's a great way of disseminating the product globally because we have the collection kits where we'll place the tooth inside a recipient to ship it to our lab at the dentist's office, and he has the parents in front of him. He's selling the product for us. Now, with lipocells, this is adipose tissue processing and storage. Basically, just imagine 1 year from now, a plastic or a cosmetic surgeon, and we have the technology, it's just going through the licensing of the facility, not the technology itself. From 1 year from today, cosmetic and plastic surgeons will be able to tell their patients that liposuction is not just about aesthetics. You can actually freeze your stem cells whilst you're young and healthy to use them in the future, not just for yourself, but for your family. So they can promote it as a package. Liposuction plus storage of stem cells. And we all know that cosmetic and plastic surgeons, I don't know if there's any in the room, are very commercial. Now, with Indus, Indus is a synthetic bone. We received CE marking 2 months ago. We started sales this month. Again, we launched 3 products in the last 45 days. And Indus is a synthetic bone that promotes new bone formation. I'll give an example. Let's imagine that I would extract a tooth today, and I'll wait 24 months to do a dental implant. So I'll visit my implantologist or periodontist to have a dental implant placed. During these 2 years, I'll suffer from bone resorption. I'll lose bone in my jaw. So he will have to use a bone graft, which is normally a bovine solution, which carries risk of contamination or rejection. We have a synthetic bone, which is basically a matrix that induces cell growth. We have a mixture of the synthetic bone with the patient's own plasma. The two are combined at the clinic, and then in 3 to 4 months, there's a new bone formation with better quality than using a bovine bone graft. And it's cheaper as well. And we already have 15 key opinion leaders in the UK documenting cases with their patients and starting to purchase a product. So here in the future, what we want to do is to combine it with stem cells from dental pulp, which we are starting to do research already. In terms of research, we signed the first agreement with a company from California. To put it into perspective, why do a company from California come all the way crossing the Atlantic to do contract research with us? Because we have, again, Peter Hollands, our Chief Scientific Officer, the technical expertise needed to carry out that research, and we have a research facility fully licensed and authorized. So we've started to do research activating stem cells with laser. When we complete the first stage, for which we get paid £100,000, we can share intellectual property on that technology as well. So again, another opportunity in the future. Quickly, we are targeting within UK, Portugal, Spain, and Brazil, our initial target markets for the next 2 years. There's around 500,000 births in the main cities. We estimate that there's around 10% uptake within these cities that we're targeting, and the serviceable obtainable market for us should be around 2%. Okay? Now, in terms of Indus, I've explained what the product does, but strategically what we want to do is to use, again, synthetic bone with stem cells. That's the purpose. It's a product we want to develop and bring to market in 2019. Now, revenue model. So the stem cell storage service is priced around £2,000. It varies from Portugal, Spain, and the UK, but it's the average price. We are targeting 500 clients in the first year following receiving the license, 1,500 in year 2, and then 3,000, which means 5,000 clients in the first 3 years. Margins vary from 60% on umbilical cord blood to 70% on dental pulp. Now, research, we are targeting 2-3 projects a year, which can generate up to £500,000 roundabout in terms of research, but more importantly, it's just a complementary service. We had the expertise, the capability, we're just capitalizing on it. And in this, a box with 5 vials, each containing 1 gram of the synthetic bone, which normally can be used for 1 procedure, costs £450. It costs us around 90 to manufacture. So we have around 60 to 80% margin there. Now, Wide Academy is important for WideCells, but to support the industry so the industry can support WideCells as well. What I mean by that is we have, first and foremost, we have the best team possible spearheading and leading the Wide Academy division. We have Alan again, who is the former director of Apple Education, and we have Jimmy Leach, who has worked at 10 Downing Street, head of digital diplomacy at the Commonwealth. So he's used to dealing with sensitive content. And that's exactly the type of content that we are dealing here with stem cells. So what we have been doing is developing courseware, targeting 3 different cohorts. One of them is medical professionals, again for the reasons I explained, educating them so they can recommend the services. Enterprise, which is we are looking into teaming up with insurance companies to include our CellPlan policy as a rider or an add-on to their policies, which means we want to educate the insurance industry and insurance brokers on how to promote these products, and the public, which can be converted in potential clients. So in terms of development strategy for the next 12 months, what can we expect? To receive the license and start offering cord blood storage services from our facility in Manchester, signing up agreements with cord blood banks, which will bring further revenues for CellPlan, and we can also expect to launch Wide Academy by the beginning of next year, which means that in the next 2-3 months, everything comes together and we are generating substantial revenue and really making an impact in this industry. We have been attracting a lot of PR because the insurance plan helps the treatment center, because they make money out of treatments, research companies, because in their business plans they have treatment for macular degeneration will cost £40,000. How do we bring this to market? CellPlan, could you help and include this in your cover? It helps patients because they can access treatment. And it helps corporate banks because it solves a big problem they have. Store the stem cells, but how do you use it in the future if it's very expensive? So very quickly, and just a final slide in terms of business model, we have multiple revenue streams, very well detailed in these slides. CellPlan is recurring revenue, £50 per each insurance policy sold, plus yearly renewals, 100,000 clients in 3 years. With research, we can take up to three projects a year that can generate around £500,000. Storage, this is model, £2,000, generating around 70% margin each. And the whole investment into this infrastructure has been done. E-commerce platform, the facilities. Now it's all about going to market. WideCells Indus, again, it's marketing. It's all been developed. We receive CE marking. And Wide Academy, it's in the final stages of development. And that's only possible. We brought this project ahead of schedule. We are going to launch it only in 2000. Start the work in 2018. But since Alan joined, and we were very fortunate to have Alan on board, bringing a great team in education technology to develop this division, we are now able to deliver a product by the beginning of next year. And Wide Academy will be monetized, it will pay for itself, and it will support the other divisions as well. So in terms of management, we have Graham Hine, who is sitting here up front, technology entrepreneur, very successful ventures before, including public listed companies. Lopes, who I mentioned, worked for Merck, managing Merck in Portugal for 25 years, so a lot of experience from the pharmaceutical industry, bringing it to our industry now. Dr. Peter Hollands, who was trained at Cambridge in the early 80s, and when he took his PhD in stem cell biology, he was oriented by Professor Bob Edwards, who invented IVF, and Peter was his right arm. And it was the research on IVF that led to the initial studies on stem cells in the early 80s. So we see most publications at the start with Peter, and from there he's been involved in teaching, in research, setting up corporate banks, and involved in transplantation as well. We have David Bridgeland, which previously worked with Graham in 4 other companies, vastly experienced CFO. We brought him on board when we floated. Then we have the founder of CellPlan and Alan. As summary of investment case, we are very innovative. We have a clearly defined business plan. All our products have the ability to generate revenue and be scaled up. We have the best team in the world to deliver it. And it's a market that is growing quite a lot, quite rapidly. Thank you very much.